Hi, so welcome to Relationship Radio. I'm Gemma, one of the leaders at Marriage Helper, and today I'm joined by one of our amazing clients, Shane, who recently attended our workshop, and so we're going to hear more about his story. Welcome to Relationship Radio.
This is Relationship Radio, an extension of Marriage Helper International. We answer your questions directly with research-based principles that you can implement immediately. Regardless of the situation, what we teach will not only make your relationships better, but will also help you to become the best version of yourself along the way. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and click the bell to turn on notifications. Turn up the volume and prepare to take notes as we begin this week's episode of Relationship Radio.
So Shane, hi.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. It's really great to meet you and talk to you here. So thanks so much for being part of this. I suppose I just wanted to start off with the background on your marriage and how you first met your wife.
Okay. My wife and I were both undergrad engineering degrees. We were at different colleges, but we were in the same engineering fraternity, and we were pledge trainers the same semester. And so decided to get our pledge classes together for a camping trip. Basically, we as the leaders, we spent the night together in a tent. Nothing romantic or anything, just happened to be, bunking in the tent, but stayed up to the wee hours of the night talking. And my wife's incredible listener. I am a big talker. And so I spent a lot of night talking, and then we went through that semester. The next semester, she came down several times. Again, I was in Austin, she was in Dallas, and came down to visit several times. And it blossomed from there. And then she graduated a year before I did and moved down closer to Austin. And from there, the relationship progressed. And then basically, few weeks after I graduated, proposed, and then we got married. Whirlwind. We got engaged in June. We got married in September, and so 3 months later.
And how long ago was that? How long have you been married?
25 years. It would be 26 this coming September.
So you hit it off. So how would you describe your marriage in the beginning, all those years ago?
The marriage was good. I think that we were, my wife was a year out of undergrad. I had just graduated from undergrad. My wife was already planning on going to physical therapy school. That was already on her agenda. So we were dealing with a lot of just kind of like how you, I guess, new graduates, right? Just, figuring life out. Figuring out life together. And so there was some struggles. I mean, they didn't have any college courses on marriage, at least none that I took. And so, there were a little bit of, struggles in communications and stuff. But for the most part, I thought it was, everything was pretty good. My employment went pretty well. We moved out of town for almost a year, moved to Virginia, probably the only time in our lives we lived outside of Texas, but moved to Virginia and spent some time up there. That ended up, causing some struggles in, her career, which is one of the reasons we only spent a year up there. And then we moved back to Dallas. And, going through, I guess, career struggles or whatever, at a certain point in there, I decided to go to law school. And so she had graduated, had gotten a really good job. Her career had started to take off. Then I went back to school. We went through that. Kind of the deal was whenever I said, okay, I wanted to go back to school, she's like, her thing was, does that mean we're waiting 3 years to have kids? And I said, no, we don't have to wait 3 years. We just, not the first year of law school. And so my son was born 3 weeks after, finals, the first year of law school. So, then that, just, I guess, to put it in perspective, that was 2001. My son was born in June 2001. Obviously, September of 2001 was pretty traumatic for everyone around the world, really. 9 months after that, my daughter was born. So I graduated law school with two kids, under 2 years old. And it was, kind of, there was financial struggles in there, both, in law school. My wife was working full time, lots of things going on in the world. And then I was struggling to get a job after I graduated. Ultimately, in 2004, we moved to Houston and lived in Houston since 2004. Third child was brought into this world, and we've basically lived in the same house, like I said, from November 2004, and my wife is still there, actually. So that's where we are.
So it was a lot of things going on for you as a couple and outside pressure. Would you say, you got on well together? Were you working as a team in those early days?
I think in the early days we worked pretty well as a team. I think when it came to parenting, kind of most of the time for the basics, we worked pretty well as a team. My wife, she's an awesome mom. Her thing was, stability, raising these kids and have stability. So hers, I guess, preference, would have been for me to go out and get a kind of more of a traditional corporate job, nice stability. The legal industry is not very stable. So lots of different ups and downs and stuff, at least where I was. Things seemed to be kind of somewhat on the up and up. And then I had a former client, and some of his misdeeds came back and, haunt me to this day, but, bit me in the butt and sent us into a tailspin, and which ultimately resulted in me spending 15 months in incarcerated, federal, it's a prison, but it's federal incarceration. And I got back from that February of 2020. And in February of 2020, it was, hey, we've got a new lease on life. Everything's brand new. The past is all behind us. We are, let's attack the rest of our lives together.
What was the point where you got to where you thought, I need some marriage help? We need some marriage help. Was there something that triggered that? Yeah.
So, so last spring, I'd started working at Lowe's. I was working a lot of hours, a lot of overtime. Finances were an issue, and so I was trying to make up for lost time. And basically, June 1st of last year, my wife came in and said, hey, I want a separation, divorce. I've already told the kids. I say she told me. She sent me an email. So sent me an email, said that she'd already told the kids that we're getting a separation, we're getting a divorce, and that's what she wants. Told me she doesn't want to talk about it, doesn't want to discuss it, doesn't have any, this isn't a cry for help, this isn't asking for therapy, counseling, nothing like that. She's just absolutely done. And I tried to talk to her a couple times, reached out got a couple different books, and had an online, the videos and stuff that I was watching, and happened to see, in my stream of videos that I was watching, got to see a video by Kimberly Beam Holmes, and she just, as soon as I saw her video, it just clicked with me, and then ultimately found Marriage Helper and saved my marriage and stuff.
So before we get to there, I want to hear Just when your wife sent that email, because I think a lot of listeners can identify with that, of just,
Mm-hmm.
having that dismissal of marriage is over, um, this is it. What was your initial reaction to reading that email?
A lot of disbelief, because of all the things that we had struggled with in our marriage off and on. We had been to counseling before. We'd had just, at different struggles. And at some point, I'd spent probably 2 years, 3 years, individual counseling therapy, and had done a lot of, self-reflection, both while I was sitting in incarceration, and then afterwards. And I'd gone through, at least probably 7 years ago, 8 years ago now, I kind of went through a midlife crisis. And all of that had culminated to where last spring I'd finally had kind of reached a peace where I'm like, this is where I want to be. This is my family. That's the most important thing to me. My wife, my kids. And so whenever she came in, when I got this email, it was just complete disbelief because I was on a completely different page, different world.
So at some point you made a decision. You found Marriage Helper, it sounds like, online,
Mm-hmm.
watched one of Kimberly's videos, which is great. For those who don't subscribe to our YouTube channel, we have loads and loads of videos there by Kimberly and Dr. Joe. So you found one of those videos. So how did you then end up signing up for the workshop?
So I found the video, and I did the Pies Boot Camp, and I did the Smart Contact Toolkit, and so I'd done both of those, and was basically trying to save up enough money to afford to save my marriage course, and that's kind of where I was in end of July, August of last year. My middle child, my older daughter, went off to college, and we, drove her off to college and dropped her off. And we came back, and about a week after we came back, on a Sunday morning, my wife came in and basically said, I need, I've talked to an attorney. I've got the papers here. I just want you to accept the papers and let's just do a no contest divorce and make this really easy and not traumatic, and just, go about our way. And, you can stay here in the house for as long as you need to get on your feet. And, but let's just do this no contest divorce. I came back to her and at that point and said, I can't just agree to this no contest divorce. And, that I don't want the divorce. But I told her, I said, look, if the two things that I asked was that we could go to the workshop and that I could stay in the house until through the holidays. And so she initially said, okay, I'll think about it. And probably about a week later, she says, I'll go to your stupid workshop. And she says, and I don't think it's a good idea, but you can stay in the house for the holidays. And I said, okay. And so at that point, I was basically, willing to sign the no contest divorce if we went to the workshop. Basically, kind of the whole idea of, bring the papers with you, and after the workshop I'll sign the papers. And then about a week after that, she sent me an email that said, no, I've reconsidered. I don't think it's a good idea. It'll give you too much false hope. And I won't do the workshop. And so I actually moved out middle of October last year, and moved into an RV with the idea that living in the RV was going to be is a temporary situation, right?
Right.
Still the hope that all of this is a temporary situation. And so living in the RV, I can move into an RV, live in that for few weeks, few months, and then easily moved back home.
Mm.
And I have not been back to the house since, except to pick up my youngest daughter for occasional visits, but not actually in the house. I have to stay at the curb.
So you mentioned, I'm so sorry, Shane, you're going through this. It's such a tough situation that so many of our clients are going through, and it is really, really difficult. I wanted to hear from you on so you mentioned that you signed up for the pies and the smart contact toolkits, which are some of our kind of entry level courses, and then signed up for the Save My Marriage course. So what would you say were the biggest revelations from that, or the biggest learnings that you had from those courses?
The pies, the boot camp is just that. It's a boot camp. It kind of really gets you started, gets you focused on what the pies is and understanding that. And that's ultimately that's huge for your own growth and peace in the long run. And as soon as you can get on it, the better. And it's and then the smart contact, again, it kind of is more in depth than you get from other things, but it gives you the basics, and it gives you, because it's kind of quick and easy, it gives you things that you can immediately do. You don't necessarily understand all of the why, how, and because that's behind the scenes, but you can immediately get in there and implement those guidelines. And so even while you're still maybe taking the Save My Marriage course, or waiting for the workshop or whatever, you're immediately implementing those skills and basically practicing them. When I did get the Save My Marriage course, the course itself was it was all the other two were, but so much more comprehensive. And then taking it and spreading it out over 10 weeks. And I followed the recommendation of don't rush through it, but be consistent, and do it every week, and really think about it, and write down all of your answers, write down all of your notes, and I did that, and that was huge. And then probably even more so than anything else was getting into the Save My Marriage group, the private group, and getting that support from other people, and hearing other people's stories, and connections, and just truly connecting to other people that are completely understand exactly where you are and what you're going through. So
that's great. Yeah, and I think you have followed a familiar path of many people, starting off with the pies and the smart contact. And for those who don't know and haven't found out about pies, do go and look on our website. That's the physical, intellectual, emotional, and spiritual side of looking after yourself and putting yourself first, and how that can make a change. And then the smart contact toolkit, like you said, is about stabilizing the communication and getting out of the craziness that can often happen at the beginning. And then the Save My Marriage, like you said, it comes with the course, but it also comes with the community of thousands of people who are in exact same spot and who know the best things, and also people who've put their marriage back together, and using the tools. So you did the Save My Marriage course, and then you signed up for the solo spouse workshop then. So you tried to get your wife to come after she'd agreed and then refused. So you ended up attending the solo spouse workshop. So how was that experience for you?
We went 4 months where my wife would never commit to a date for the workshop. And I think there was a video by Dr. Beam and Kimberly, and they talked about it. And one of the things they talked about, okay, if you go to the solo workshop, and then you go to the couples, or vice versa, that you get a discount basically the next time you go to a workshop. So I went and did the math real quick and realized what the total additional cost would be for me to go to the solo and then go to the couples. And so I was like, okay, you know what? Just go ahead and sign me up for the solo workshop.
And I suppose just before you carry on, I think it'd be good to just explain the workshop for those who don't know. So we have our couples turnaround workshop, which has been going for 20 years, 70% success rate of couples coming back together and staying together. An independent study was done, and even after 6 years, 70% of the couples were still together, which is striking because 90% of the couples come at the point of crisis. I mean, your story is very common. A lot of couples come right at the point of divorce. There is a lot of what we would call reluctant spouses who are only there because they've been persuaded to come. We recently started right when COVID hit doing this solo spouse workshop, and the reason was for exactly the description that you say, that you can't get your spouse to come, but you still want all the benefits of the workshop. You want as yourself to learn all about attachment styles and personality profiles and all of these different things that can give you the best shot of putting your marriage back together. And then, like you say, if when at the point when your wife is ready to come, you get such a discount on a return trip for the couples workshop that it almost is a no-brainer. You know, if there's a period of time when you're waiting, it makes sense to do what you did. So how did you find? So how was the workshop? What did you get out of it?
It was absolutely amazing. The information, all the information that turns around and hits, and it's so much information. And what was interesting about it was you hear other people talking about the workshop, and they come back in, and I've heard so many different people, before will say it's not really a couples workshop. It's not a marriage workshop. And I'm like, all right, but it is a couples. I mean, it's right there in the name. It's a couples workshop. And then when you get in there and you realize it's a workshop for you, and for you to learn about you with respect to relationships. There was a guy that was at the workshop that he just said, hey, I just want to improve my marriage. But his wife didn't want to do it. But he said there's absolutely nothing wrong with their marriage. Everything's wonderful and great. He just wanted it to be better. And then there was, one lady who had had relationship struggles in the past. She's currently single and just said, hey, I want to prepare for future. And so there was so much, support within that group. And it was such a safe environment to come in and to truly, understand yourself, and then to be able to get feedback, and then, again, support from other people that truly understand what you're doing. And so I came out of the solo workshop with so much more conviction of my stand, as well as peace, that I was comfortable with what I was doing, where I was going, and what was happening.
And so where's your relationship with your wife now?
So we finally we did the couples workshop. We actually, part of her requirement, the only way that she ultimately would agree to it, is that we were in separate physical locations. So we were, separate physical locations, participated in the workshop. It really is, again, so much about you internally, you personally, focus on you. I can't imagine that even a walkaway spouse, even if they proceed with the divorce, even if they don't, change their direction, they're going to be glad they went to the workshop, what they've learned about themselves. And my wife even said it, and I think Melody has said it before, her spouse said it, she came in and was like, hey, all of this is really great and wonderful. I'm so glad I did this. And, I'll have some future relationship where I'll be able to apply all this information to that.
So at this point right now then, Shane, you're still standing. You've done the workshop with your wife. Your wife hasn't necessarily made any movement to you, but you're still standing. And so how are you? I mean, I can just say from my perspective, having just spoken to you for this time, that you seem at peace. You seem to have a really great perspective. You seem, not anxious or worried. And so how are you achieving that despite all the craziness around you? How are you keeping your center?
Yeah. So pies was huge. Whenever I got into pies and first started doing it, in my case, my intellectual, I'm probably over-degreed in a lot of ways, just like, that was kind of always my strong suit was, okay, I can't do anything else, but, I can learn stuff. And so I've learned a lot of important and useless information but through the years. But intellectual wise, my intellectual focus for growing in my pies was basically Marriage Helper. It was, learning all of the materials, everything that I could possibly learn, going through Gottman and so many other reference materials and stuff. It was intellectually learning about relationships, right? That was my eye. It has been, basically for the longest time. And I had repeatedly different signs, things happening that were, responses that were clear responses to, prayer requests. Not what I specifically asked for, but it was obvious a response to, whatever I was struggling with. And little things started happening that paved the way for me ultimately to move to Galveston, to live in Galveston full time, to really get plugged into the community. I was working, food bank and doing other, volunteer activities here on the island. So yeah, basically, 1st of June, I got my own, lease on a place on a duplex down here on the island. Then I also ended up, a couple of weeks later, I got a job down here. And so now I'm fully vested. Probably my biggest struggle right now is the fact that I've come so far and I feel so good about where I am and what's going on right now, that I still, to this day, really, really want to, would love to reconcile with my wife and to, to rebuild our relationship from scratch, and to rebuild our entire family's relationship.
It is amazing to hear, and I think that you'll definitely be an inspiration for a lot of people in the place. The fact that you've come out of this situation that you didn't ask for, although, like you say, you own up to your contributing factors to it, but you didn't ask for it, and yet you have found yourself or got yourself into a situation where you have started a new life, effectively. You've taken the bad that happened to you, and you've created a new job, a new life, a new church, a new friendship group. You found peace, and yet you still hold on to your marriage. If she decides, you've done. I mean, maybe I don't want to put words in your mouth, but saying you've almost done everything within your power to do the best that you can, and you have peace in yourself. And how invaluable is that? Whatever happens, not every marriage will be safe because there's two individuals with free will, and your wife will always have her choice and be able to choose what she wants. But you must have peace inside of you, knowing that you've really done your all, put every effort into it. So I suppose to sum all this up, for just concluding the whole conversation, if there are people who are in the early stages and feeling really hopeless, have been told that their spouse wants a divorce and they can't see a way out, what would you tell them? What advice would you give them?
As soon as I believed in it, from the standpoint of, once you come in, if you have faith, if you believe us when we tell you how wonderful and great the workshop is, okay? If you have any belief in what I'm telling you, then go to the solo workshop immediately. Don't stop pushing for the couples workshop by any means, but don't hesitate on the solo workshop because you're holding out for the couples workshop. Because as much as the boot camp, the Save My Marriage course, as much as they kind of tell you what you need to do, and those things that you can immediately apply, the workshop gives you an understanding of why it works and why you're doing these things, and not only in terms of just in general as to why these things work, but why for you specifically these things are important.
Well, thank you, Shane. This has been a real pleasure speaking to you and getting to know your story. And I think I can say on behalf of the whole of Marriage Helper and all our listeners, we wish you all the best with whatever happens in your scenario. I get the sense that you're going to be fine. You're going to be great, in fact. And we wish you all the very best. So thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us for this week's episode of Relationship Radio. Please refer to the notes in the description to learn more about any resources mentioned in this episode. Please visit our website at marriagehelper.com for more information about our online courses, marriage workshops, and coaching. If you would like immediate help for your marriage situation, then click on the link on the screen to schedule a free marriage strategy call with one of our team members. We exist to help save marriages and strengthen families. We look forward to interacting with you on the next episode of Relationship Radio.